Okay, welcome to the round. Let's learn about some people of the medieval times. This is meant to help you get introduced to some of these people and then be successful on your People of the Medieval Times quiz in pursuit of yet more realm points and the badge. So let's dive in and see what some of these people are all about. Ivan the Terrible gets his name for an obvious reason, is because he is terrible. First Czar of Russia. He was ruthless and mean. He would take lands, and he would even beat members of his own family, seemingly for no reason. And terrible indeed. Dominant in military, and he created this secret Russian police, the first one to do that. Ivan the Terrible, he's terrible. He beat his family members. Marco Polo. Perhaps you've played the game. Marco Polo was a big traveler and explorer. He was a big-time adventurer. He inspired many other people to go on adventures and explorations long after he died. In fact, as it says, Columbus had Marco Polo's book in his pocket when he sailed to America. The popular game Marco Polo is when somebody says Marco and the other people say Polo with their eyes closed, and they try to figure out where each other are at. Saladin was a Muslim, which means he believed in Islam. He was one of the big leaders of the Muslims during the Crusades, and he united the Muslim world. A very influential person in the history of the world is a guy by the name of Muhammad. He was the founder of the religion of Islam, one of the major religions of the world. He was born in a place called Mecca and spent his time traveling and teaching the words of the Quran, which is the book of Islam. Charlemagne was a king and emperor. He united Western Europe, and he conquered many lands. He also worked with one of the popes to try to come to an agreement as far as who had more power, the pope or the king. They kind of reached a compromise there, where Charlemagne would take care of everything non-religious, and the pope would be in charge of anything religious. King John was a terrible king. Maybe he should be called King Terrible John, because he was mean, a liar. He imprisoned people for seemingly no reason. The big thing with King John is he did whatever he wanted because he was king and nobody was going to tell him what to do. However, this could only last so long because he angered many people, one of which was the nobles. And so the nobles got together, threatened to revolt, threatened civil war. So the Magna Carta was created, which limited royal power. So now King John could not do whatever he wanted. He needed to obey the rules just like anybody else. William the Conqueror gets his name because, as it says, conquered many lands in the medieval times. He created the social class pyramid known as feudalism, which gives us the kings at the top, followed by the nobles, then the knights, and at the bottom are the peasants. Joan of Arc was an interesting character in the medieval times. A female, she dressed up as a boy, so she would be allowed to fight. She was a saint of the Catholic Church, and she led her army to victory in the siege of New Orleans. She said she had visions from God, which angered people at the time, and so she was burned at the stake at age 19. Geoffrey Chaucer was a famous poet from the medieval times. His best-known work is the Canterbury Tales. Robin Hood. I'm sure you've heard of Robin Hood before. Is he real or is he legend? That's a big question with Robin Hood. Nonetheless, it is believed that he lived in a place called Sherwood Forest, and he would steal from the rich and give to the poor in a place called Nottingham, angering the sheriff of Nottingham and creating a big rivalry there. He was an expert with the bow and arrow. He could split an arrow with his second arrow, and he was one of the most famous outlaws of the medieval times. Speaking of legends, King Arthur, real or mythical? He and the Knights of the Round Table have many stories of fighting and bravery. Arthur pulled his sword, called Excalibur, out of the stone. William Wallace was a knight, freedom fighter for Scotland. He fought against England to gain freedom for Scotland. He led many successful battles, but was ultimately executed 4 different ways at the same time just to make sure. Yes, the English did not like William Wallace. Attila the Hun was a leader of the Hun Empire. Attila was the most successful barbarian ruler of his time. He routinely attacked the Roman Empire and built his own powerful empire. Leif Erikson was a Norse explorer down from Scandinavia. He landed in present-day Canada and discovered North America 500 years before Columbus did. But he didn't colonize, so he doesn't get the credit for discovering America first. His goal on his explorations was to Christianize areas. So these are some of the people of the medieval times. Rewatch it, read through it yourself. Good luck on the people of the medieval times quiz. Peace in the realm.